Looking at this dress, you'll notice that it is structured and contoured despite the absence of darts. And this is because the darts have been transferred and removed while the pattern was being drafted, which is why today we are diving into that elimination, a technique that shapes the garments to fit the body perfectly without visible dart stitches. So I'll demonstrate two dart elimination technique, one for the front bodice and one for the back bodice. So creative minds, welcome back to Easy Sewing with Tyke. If you are new here, I'm Taiwo, and so great to have you join us. I'm glad you found us. To my amazing returning subscribers, thank you for your support, for your likes, for your comments and shares. I appreciate you all so much. Let's get started. I'll be drafting out the half-scale basic bodice first before showing you how to eliminate or remove that. So the first vertical measurement I have there is the chest line. I would make sure that I roll that across. The formula to get used to be showing on the screen. Afterwards, I went ahead to impute the bust point measurement. This is needed for the bust dart. Then the next thing that I have there is the half length. So I'm just going ahead to label it. I have the start point, the chest line, the bust point, and the half length, which doubles as the waistline as well. Moving on to the horizontal measurements, the first one I have there is the shoulder measurement divided by 2. The shoulder measurement I'm working with is 16. 16 divided by 2 is 8. I repeated that same measurement on the chest line, after which I connected it to the start point this way. Then I went ahead to mark out the neck width, which is 3 inches. After which I came down by 1 inch from the start point line. That will serve as the shoulder slope. Then I went ahead to impute the bust measurement divided by 4 on the chest line. I came up by 2 inches. And on that 2 inches mark, I came in by half inch. We are trying to draft out the armhole curve here. So now that I have this, I'll go ahead and connect the first point and the second point this way using my ruler. Then the second point to the bust measurements that we have on the chest line, I'll go ahead and connect it using the armhole curve. So this is how to draft the front armhole curve. Also, I would connect these 2 points together. This is the shoulder slope. Moving on to the dart, we would have 2 on this front half scale basic bodice, which is the waist dart and the bust dart. But starting off with the waist dart, I came down by 1 inch from the bust point. Then I measured the bust span measurement divided by 2 all the way from that point to the waistline. Then I went ahead to connect it together using a straight line this way. Now on both sides of this bust span line, come out by half inch on the waistline. Then connect it to the apex of the dart this way. Now what we have here is the waist dart, okay? So before we proceed to the bust dart, I'll go ahead and impute the waist measurement. Now when you're imputing this waist measurement divided by 4, make sure that you include the 1 inch for the dart. You know, we came out by half inch on both sides. That is 1 inch. Make sure that you include it to your waist measurement. For example, if your waist measurement is 32, 32 divided by 4 is 8 inch. Make sure that you mark out 9 inch, okay, so that you will not have shorted in your measurement. So that is where my own waist measurement is, and I went ahead to connect it to the bust measurement this way. Now to the bust dart. So the reason why we usually have a bust dart is to eliminate the difference between the front and the back half length, because it is usually different. The front half length is usually longer than the back half length because of the bust bulge, okay? So to make the two sides to match up, we have to take out the bust dart on the front block. So the difference between my front half length and the back is 1.5, and I measure that after the bust point line. That is the reason why we have it there. Then I went ahead to measure out the bust span measurement, and I just connected it like this, so it's in form of a tall or a long triangle this way. So that's the bust dart represented by BD and the waist dart represented by WD. Moving on to the main reason for this tutorial, which is eliminating this waist dart and this bust dart. So we'll be starting off with the bust dart by transferring the bust dart to the waist dart, and we would achieve that by closing off the bust dart after opening the waist dart. I would practicalize everything that I said in a bit. So I just went ahead to cut out the half length line. After which I went ahead to cut out the waist dart this way. It's either you cut it out completely or you slash through that center line, that bust span line, or you slash through it, is still the same thing, but I'm cutting it out so that you can see the effect of closing the bust dart on that waist dart. Then moving over to the bust dart, just slash through the lower line this way, okay? Slash through the lower line this way so that you can move it to match up with the upper line, thereby closing off the bust dart. You can see that by closing off this bust dart, immediately the waist dart has increased. By the time I'm done taping this down and we measure what we have there, you will see that we'll have 2.5 inches, meaning that that 1.5 inches that is the bust dart has been transferred to the waist dart. So for the waist dart now, we have 2.5 inches, as you can see. So what we have here is the combination of the waist dart and the bust dart that has been transferred. Now the only thing to do is to eliminate these 2.5 inches completely. And in order to do that, the first thing you want to do is to fill up this part. Okay, you want to fill it up by imputing more or extra pattern paper this way. Then go ahead and connect it at the hem line. Make sure that it is straight that way. We'll be trimming it off later. The next thing to do is to transfer this dart to another place on the pattern where it will be easy for me to close, because I can't close it in this current position. So here's what I'm going to do. Placing my ruler on one of the dart leg, you can connect it to any part of the armhole or directly at the end of the armhole curve. So I did it this way. Then placing my ruler on the second dart leg, I connected it to that same point that I chose on the chest line. So I'm just reinforcing that mark with the pen so you can see it properly. Doing this, I've gone ahead to transfer this waist dart to another part on this pattern paper. This new position where I have the dart now would afford me the opportunity to close this dart easily, just like we closed the bust dart. But to do that, I will trim off the excess at the waistline this way. Then I'll go ahead and cut on the shorter dart leg. You can see that this one is shorter than the other one. Please emphasis on the shorter one or the one closer to the side. I'll make sure that I cut it all the way to the apex of the dart this way. After which I can easily close it. But to close it properly, I have to slash through the chest line. Just follow through with what you can see on the screen. I have to slash through the chest line like this. Then I can now close it off easily. The next thing to do is to add extra piece of paper there to close off that opening that we now have as a result of closing the dart. Now remember that the side front is shorter than the center front by 1.5 inches because of the bust dart that we closed. So I just went ahead to remeasure it to be sure. What I have at the center front from the chest line to the hem is 8 inches and what I have there is 6.5. So I'm just going to connect it to the center front this way to redraw out the hem line. Don't make the mistake of joining your hem line straight after adding this extra piece of paper, okay? Because if you do it this way, it means you've re-added the bust dart and it means the front and the back will not match up at the side. You would understand what I'm saying better when we are done with the back bodice. Also, before I cut it off, I'll go ahead and remeasure the waist measurement, the exact waist measurement divided by 4, because all the dart elimination in most cases might have added a little bit to the measurement, and in this case it added a whole half inch and we don't want that. So we take your waist measurement, then cut it off this way. Since I'm using this pattern to make a dress immediately, I decided to go ahead and draft out the neckline on it. So this neckline is part of the 19 different neckline that I showed you how to cut and draft and prevent neck gaping on. If you have not seen that tutorial, the link to do so would be showing on your screen right now. You have to do that. So I'm gonna head to measure out the length, which is 6.5. At the length of the neckline that way, I measured out 3.5 inches. Then at the start point or the shoulder line that way, the neck width that I'm working with is 2.5. Okay, you want to make sure that the neck width you used at the upper part is 1 inch shorter or lesser than the one you used at the bottom of the neckline. Okay, I do not want the bottom part to be too wide, which is why I did it this way, because we want it slanted like this. I came up by 2 inches at the bottom part of the neckline this way. Then I went ahead to use the pattern master to create my curve. You can use any of the French curve to do this. Just create your curve according to your preference. And this is it, the neckline is ready. So I went ahead to cut it out. I also came down by 0.25 inches at the shoulder line that way to prevent neck gaping and for the neck tightening. To see the other method that I would use, then you have to check out that video that I mentioned earlier. If you have watched to this point and you are yet to subscribe, please kindly do so. Give this video a thumbs up, drop your questions or comment below. I love hearing from you. Also, don't forget to share this video with your friends so they can be a part of our creative community. Alright, now let's continue. For the back pattern, I have the start point, I have the chest line, and I have the waist line. The only difference with the front is that I do not have the bust point line. Of course, the bust is not at the back. So this is all the vertical measurements needed for this. And you can see that the length that I have there is 15.5. It is 1.5 inch shorter than the length that I use for the front. This is just to re-emphasize the importance of the bust dart. I've also gone ahead to mark out the shoulder measurement divided by 2 on the start point line and on the chest line. I also mark out the neck width, which is 2.5. I came down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope and I divided what I have left into 2. So this is me just connecting the neck width to the 1 inch for the shoulder slope this way. Then on the chest line, I went ahead to input the bust measurements divided by 4. I marked that and I used the armhole curve to connect the 3 points together this way. So this is the back armhole. It's quite different from the front armhole. The next thing to do is to draft out the waist dart, just like we did for the front. So we only have the waist dart on the back pattern. After which I went ahead to input the waist measurement divided by 4. Make sure that you add the 1 inch for the dart, please, so as not to have shortage in your measurements. Then I connected it to the bust measurement this way. So before we go ahead to eliminate the dart, I went ahead to do this back tightening to eliminate zipper bulge. So at the center back, I came up by 1/2 inch and I also removed 1/2 inch. Just follow through what you can see on the screen. So all this place that I'm marking out, I would cut it off. Doing this would eliminate any bulge, as you can see in the final outfit that it does not have any bulge. Please ignore this marked part. I would go ahead and explain from the beginning. I just discovered that my phone was not recording. Thankfully, I discovered it on time and I've not gone ahead to cut it out or all of that. Now to eliminate this waist dart, unlike the front where I went ahead to place the roller on one of the dart leg and I connected it to a part of the armhole like this, like the way I'm showing you. Instead, what I did was to locate a point at the side, locate a point close to the side, like 1 inch before the side, and just rule a straight line this way to meet up with any part of the armhole. Remember that the dart intake is 1 inch. Just go ahead and measure 1 inch inwards and slant it over this way. Afterwards, just like we usually do, we need to close it off. Okay, just go ahead and cut on the shorter dart leg this way, or the one closer to the side, and just close it up like this. So this is how I eliminated the waist dart for the back. And just like we did for the front, go ahead and remeasure the waist measurement to be sure that what you have there is your exact waist measurement. Once that is confirmed, then you can now proceed to cutting out the neckline. For the back neckline, remember that the neck width is 2.5 inches and the neck depth that I'm working with is 1.5 inches. So you can see that the sides measure the same 6.5 inches that the front side measured. Now you can see the importance of that bust dart. If we had not taken in that bust dart, the side front would have been longer than the side back, and it would have been difficult to join together. So I tested this pattern by using it to make a beautiful black dress, and the tutorial on how I made it would be up soon. So put on your post notification in order not to miss out on anything. All right. And that's a wrap for today's tutorial. I hope you gained some valuable insight and enjoyed the process. I'd love to see how your project turns out, so be sure to share them with me on social media. You can find me as EasySewing with Tyke on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. See you in the next tutorial. Until then, take care and happy sewing. Bye.